Personal sacrifice, like the young teenager who rescued his very young neighbors. However, we know that nation building is not the work of some, but the task of everyone. Everyone is our neighbor. The love of God is in everyone, as we're told in the first lesson from Deuteronomy, that the word is not out there, it's in our hearts, put there by the Spirit of God. And everyone is called to reveal that love in service. In our Constitution's preamble, we say, and I quote, "And whereas the people of this family of islands recognize the preservation of their freedom will be guaranteed by a national commitment to self-discipline, industry, loyalty, unity, and abiding respect for Christian values and the rule of law." The fundamental Christian values are the love of God and love of neighbor as ourselves. This, beloved, is still a task to be achieved, as it is a task throughout the world. Our present situation reveals how crucial self-discipline is for development as a compassionate and loving people. We need the personal commitment to the value of self-discipline in all areas of our lives. Self-discipline always bears good fruit. We see this, for instance, in our athletes, who took us on the world stage with the golden girls and the golden boys at the Olympics. And all those who allow themselves to learn and persevere in self-discipline to achieve such milestones. They were able to listen and were willing to learn and to obey their coaches and to be open to the unexpected, as we heard in the Samaritan story. Our country's theme for our 40th anniversary is "The Bridge to the Future. The Journey Continues." Love of God, love of neighbor as ourselves, and being a compassionate people are the bridges to the future. It is the call to go out of ourselves for the sake of others. In doing so, we mature. This, for all nations, is a challenge. For us in the Bahamas, the bridge to the future and the continuation of the journey demand of us that we have a personal response to God and to all people. That journey, beloved, demands of us that we pay more attention to the development of our families, the education of our people, and a generous attitude of service. These are the very spiritual values mentioned in the preamble of our Constitution. They will help to curb violence and crime, one of our present challenges, as is throughout the world. As with all peoples, growth as a nation and interacting with other nations is a continuous and necessary task. We have a hope because there is within us, and it will always be within us, because of the fidelity of God and His Spirit within us, all that is necessary to meet the challenge and those who will come to help us. Like the Samaritan, It may come in unexpected persons and unexpected places at unexpected times. We are called to be open to the unexpected. I would like to end with a story that reveals the surprise, the unexpected of God, the paradox of life, love, and sacrifice that we seek to become as a people. This is a story about a man named Daniel, whom I had the privilege to bury in August 2007. Just over 45 years ago, when I was as a young priest, when I first met him, he came to the rectory to ask for something to eat. I gave him a plate of food with a fork. He then asked me for a second fork. I asked him, "Why do you want a second fork, Danny?" He replied, "My friend down on the corner doesn't have anything to eat, and he can eat out of my plate." He didn't ask for a second plate of food, but a second fork. Danny gave from his need, not his want. Though this was a man who was paralyzed often by alcoholism, his heart was not paralyzed. About 30 years later, on a very, very cold night, this same Danny was awakened by the shivering noise of the man in the bed next to him in our geriatric hospital and old age home. Danny removed the only blanket he had to keep himself warm and put it on the man who already had a blanket of his own. This man was younger than Danny, a different race, and not one that you would have expected to have needed help from someone like Danny. Danny did not call for the nurse to bring another blanket. Rather, he recognized the need and was willing to give what he himself needed. The next day, this man asked to see Danny's priest, who happened to be me. What did he say? "I want to belong to his God," as he humbly pointed to Danny. After some brief instructions, the man was received into our church, and Danny was his sponsor. What does an old man who struggled with alcoholism have to tell us? Quite a bit, beloved. Paradoxically, the man who struggled with alcoholism have to tell us. This man who seemingly was insignificant in our society is the man who knew intrinsically what it is to live a life of sacrificial service, the Good Samaritan. While his body and mind may have been repaired, his heart was filled with generosity and love of Jesus Christ. He revealed in his actions who God is and who we are called to be. He clearly understood the love of God and the love of neighbor. Danny was a credible sign of the goodness of God in our midst. Such a person gives us hope about how to build a nation and reminds us that everyone has something to give. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your strength, and with all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself. Go and do likewise. And now to him who by his power at work within us is able to do far more than we ask or imagine. To him be glory in the church and in Christ Jesus, from generation to generation, now and forever.